Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode I'm going to take a look at something that's been around for a while now but still packs a powerful punch. It's the Blofeld from Waldorf. Yeah, so Waldorf and their habit of naming things after James Bond baddies. This one's named after his arch nemesis, Ernst Stavros Blofeld. So yeah, cool little thing. What does it sound like? And all the synths you're listening to there are from the Blofeld. That's a remake of a track called Hearts from Black Hole Recordings. Really nice track, but as I was listening to it, I realised the Blofeld could do all the synth lines, and it does it really well actually. Quite surprised for something that originally came out in 2007. And if you saw my Polyend play video, you'll have seen it doing this. And it featured quite heavily in that video because it is so flexible, so you heard it doing this as well. And here's another. And that's the reason they got this out, to be honest, because getting a load of different instruments out to do a bass line, some leads, some pads, I'd end up with a table full of stuff and have to get a mixer out and have cables all over the place, and the Polyend player looked tiny compared to everything else I was demoing it with. This was really good because it's got, if you can see here, it's got 16 MIDI channels simultaneously, and it can play up to 25 voices at any one time. So there's a huge scope you've got in there. It can do pads, it can do leads, it can do basses, and you heard in all those demo tracks, it can pretty much cover all the synth tones that you need. So let's take a look at it. It comes in two flavours. There's the desktop unit that I've got here. That's around £360, and there's a keyboard version that's got, I think it's 49 keys on it, the velocity and aftertouch sensitive, and it comes in white or black. You don't get a load of inputs and outputs on. If you look at the back, we've got a single stereo out. We've only got a MIDI in, not a MIDI out as well, but we do have USB. The USB is for MIDI, not for audio, but it does have the MIDI out on it, which means you can use it with an app. And if we look at the app, or an app, there's loads of them, you can see exactly what you've got in the sound engine. This one's from Mystery Island. It's about £50, I think, but if we look at the actual synth engine on here, we've got 3 oscillators. These are wavetable oscillators, and I've got, I don't know how many wavetables that is in there, but a fair few, all the classic Waldorf ones. Then we go over to the filters and envelopes. We've got 2 filters, and we can change the routing between them, and 4 envelopes. Plus we've got 3 LFOs, and this huge modulation matrix that's got 16 different slots in it. And then we've got the 16 parts here. It's like a mixing desk for the 16 parts. You've got levels, you've got pan, you've got change the MIDI channels, plus a patch librarian, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of patches that come with it. I think there's 8 banks, each with 128 sounds. So there's absolutely tons in there, but it's got a really minimal interface. If we look at this, we've just got these 6 knobs to manipulate the sound. This one up here is for menus, this one's for volume, and then just 4 buttons as well to access this matrix. But it's set out really well, so yeah, there's loads in there, and you've got to know what you're looking for. That's why it's quite handy, I think, sometimes to have a software editor, just so that you can get used to what the actual synth can do, and you know what's in there rather than looking for it. And looking down here, we've got these buttons that access different sort of menu pages, I suppose. Each one of these is a different oscillator, and then the 4 knobs then do these sort of main parameters. So if we go to the cutoff, for example, this is modulatable via MIDI. Which means that although you haven't got all the knobs on the front, if you've got a decent controller, you can access whatever you like. But I've only set this one up to do the cut-off because that's all I needed for that little track. But you can hear it's got quite a nice tone. So let's try and edit a tone. Okay, let's just try and edit a patch, shall we? Go into the oscillator, change the shape, semitone, detune or level using the knobs. So just changing the shape or the wavetable here. And you can go further into that. You can see down here we've got things changing. So you've got FM amount and brilliance, stuff like that in there. Filters. Envelopes. Then we've got this matrix down here as well. So we've got 16 parts in that matrix. So this is really complex to do on this because we've got two different screens, but we access on the matrix the source, the amount and the destination. But I'm not going to go through that in too much detail. We've also got an arpeggiator, and the arpeggiator is much easier to edit on the software. But you can see that it's quite simple to do that. Editing the performance, we go back into play mode, press that twice. If you only press that once, you can be in trouble. So make sure you press it twice, and then we can flick through the different MIDI channels by holding play and whizzing through that. And we go through the different pages. So there's a few pages in there, but they basically replicate what we saw on that little mixer section on the software. If we come back to here, pressing play again. So we flick through the different parts, 1 to 16. So not too difficult. You do have to concentrate at times so that you don't lose your place or you delete something unintentionally because you've gone into the wrong mode. But once you know it and once you understand what the synth engine is, it's really quite simple. It's surprisingly easy to use considering it's only got 6 knobs and 4 buttons for sound editing. In fact, let's break down that track a little and look at each of the parts. We'll go back into Logic then, look at each of those parts because we've got a bass, we've got pads, we've got leads and we've got effects, so pretty much covers everything. So here I'm modulating the cut-off of part 5, which is the bass. Listen to that on its own. Nice. I've no idea if this is identical to the track, by the way, it's just a sort of rough estimate of what it does. So again, playing with the cutoff. Let's put the pads in. Just listening to the pads on their own now, they sound nice, they sound rich, they're going for a chorus, they're going through a reverb. You know, it's a nice tone, isn't it? And these are all based on presets that are in there. I've just tweaked them a tiny little bit to make them sort of fit the track a bit better. But yeah, you know, it's perfectly usable, isn't it? Let's listen to the effect. Super simple. And the lead line. Yeah, so it does a very good job of sounding like a decent little synth, like a whole track. Really impressed by it, sort of forgot how good it was. What are my final thoughts? Well, this is one of those instruments that just seems to keep on going and going. A bit like the microcorg that's been around for over 20 years. This has been around for about 15 at the minute. And it's, you know, it's because it does so much. Yeah, it's not super flexible. You haven't got loads of different outputs for your mixer, but you know, you can do a lot inside it. If you want to mix something down, obviously you'd have to then put it into Logic or whatever, bit by bit, and then you could effect it in there. But for playing live, for gigging, for popping around to your mates, for doing rehearsals and things, really good. It is a little bit fiddly at times with this sort of limited interface. The number of times I've gone into here, for example, that's the multi, and then I've thought I'm in the play mode and I'm not, and I change it and I haven't saved it, and I scream because I've lost everything I've just done over the last 10 minutes. You just got to get used to doing that, and you've got to concentrate. It's a shame it doesn't have some sort of big flashing light to let you know what mode it's in. You've got two main modes on it. You've got performance mode where you're accessing the 16 different channels at the same time, and then you've got sort of single mode where you just playing a single instrument. And if you do have that set up, you've just got to concentrate. You've got to make sure you know what mode you're in before you leave it, and make sure you save everything bit by bit. But once you get to grips with it, fine. People do say that these knobs go. I suppose they get used an awful lot, but I think they're only like 15 euros, 25 euros to get replacements. So if you can pick one up second hand, you might get wobbly knob. Don't worry about it. Just order some new ones. They're really cheap. So yeah, there you have it, the Blofeld from Waldorf. And if you enjoyed that, don't forget you can catch it whenever you like on our Clubbing TV official YouTube channel on the From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop me in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And if you are into your synths, your drum machines, your studio tech, do take a look at my Starsky Carr YouTube channel as well. And I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.